The emergency transmission Dr. Sarah Chun was reviewing stellar formation data in the quiet hours of her night shift aboard the research station, Prometheus, when the universe decided to change everything. The Deep Space Monitoring Array had been humming its usual mechanical lullaby for the past 6 hours, cataloging routine communications traffic between various galactic civilizations. Then the silence shattered. The emergency beacon that cut through the cosmic background noise was unlike anything in Sarah's 15 years of Xena communications experience. The signal pattern carried the desperate harmonic frequencies of the Zephyrian Empire, one of the galaxy's oldest and most peaceful civilizations. But there was something wrong with the transmission, something that made Sarah's hands tremble. As she activated the translation protocols, the main display screen flickered to life, revealing the image of Chancellor Velinari of the Zephyrian High Council, the graceful, crystalline being that Sarah had met at several diplomatic conferences. Now appeared haggard and desperate. Behind Velinari, emergency lights bathed the council chambers in an ominous red glow, while the sound of distant explosions echoed through the transmission. Emergency broadcast to all receiving vessels and installations. Velinari's melodic voice carried a tremor that sent chills down Sarah's spine. This is Chancellor Velinari of the Zephyrian Empire, broadcasting from our capital world of Asterix Prime. We are under attack by entities we have designated as void feeders. They are not ships or armies in any conventional sense. They are living darkness that consumes entire star systems. Sarah leaned forward in her chair, her scientific mind struggling to process the implications. The Zephyrians possessed technology that could manipulate solar radiation and bend spacetime itself. If something could threaten them so completely, it represented a danger beyond anything the galaxy had faced in recorded history. The transmission continued, punctuated by what sounded like reality itself tearing apart. The void feeders appeared in our outer territories 8 months ago. At first, we thought they were some form of dark matter phenomenon. Our scientists were eager to study them. We were so terribly wrong. The horrifying truth Velinari SMH wavered as the transmission struggled against increasing interference. They are parasites that feed on stellar energy itself. When they encounter a star system, they attach themselves to the central star and begin draining its nuclear fire. The star becomes a hollow shell, a crystal prison that spreads their corruption to every planet, every moon, every asteroid in the system. Sarah watched in horror as Velinari shared sensor recordings of the attacks. Solar systems that had thrived for millions of years were reduced to glittering crystal tombs in a matter of weeks. The void feeders moved like living shadows, their forms shifting between energy and matter as they consumed everything in their path. 7 of our colony systems have fallen completely. Nexus Beta, our greatest manufacturing center, was crystallized in 12 days. The inhabitants, they become part of the crystal network, conscious but unable to act, feeding the parasites with their life energy for eternity. It is a fate worse than death. The Chancellor's next words would haunt Sarah for the rest of her life. We sent our entire military fleet to stop them. 2,000 ships, our finest warriors, our most advanced technology. They were absorbed into the crystal matrix within hours. Now they serve the void feeders, turned against their own people. The Galactic Council's betrayal. Sarah felt her stomach drop as Velinari continued the desperate plea. We have sent formal requests for assistance to the Galactic Council. Their response arrived yesterday. They have classified our entire empire as a biological hazard and established a quarantine zone around our territories. No ships will be permitted to enter or leave Zephyrian space. The betrayal was complete and devastating. The Galactic Council, supposedly dedicated to protecting all member species, had written off an entire civilization of 3 billion souls without even attempting a rescue operation. The cold political calculation was as horrifying as the void feeders themselves. They have moved their defense fleets to protective positions around Council member worlds. Velinaria's voice cracked with exhaustion and despair. They will sacrifice use to buy time for themselves. Perhaps they are right. Perhaps there is no hope. The transmission grew weaker as crystal formations began spreading across the council chamber walls behind the Chancellor. If anyone receives this message, if there are species in the galaxy still willing to fight for something greater than self-preservation, please remember us. Remember that the Zephyrian Empire stood for knowledge, peace, and cooperation among all sentient beings. Do not let our ideals die with us. An unexpected answer, light years away, aboard the human exploration vessel Defiant Spirit, Captain Marcus. Torres was finishing his evening inspection when his communications officer, Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, burst onto the bridge with urgency written across her face. "Captain, you need to hear this immediately," she said, patching the Zephyr in distress call through the ship's main speakers. Torres listened in silence, his weathered face growing darker with each passing moment. At 42 years old, Torres had served in 3 different human military conflicts and commanded exploration missions to the galaxy's most dangerous regions. He had developed an instinct for recognizing genuine crisis situations, and everything about Velinari's desperate pleas screamed authenticity. "Amy, verify the signal's origin and confirm it's not some kind of elaborate hoax," Torres ordered. Though he already knew the answer. No one could fake that level of terror and despair. "Already confirmed, sir. Signal originated from the Astric system, approximately 130 light-years from our current position. Cross-referencing with Galactic Council databases confirms the Zephyrian Empire's quarantine status." Torres studied the star charts displayed on the main screen. The Zephyrian territory was a vast region of space containing dozens of inhabited systems and some of the galaxy's most advanced research facilities. The idea of abandoning such a massive area to unknown parasites violated every principle of interstellar cooperation. "Captain," Rodriguez continued hesitantly, "there's something else. I've been monitoring military frequencies, and word is spreading quickly through human space about the Galactic Council's decision. A lot of our people are not happy about it." Torres nodded slowly, understanding immediately. Humans had earned their reputation as Deathworlders, not just because they came from a planet with extreme environmental conditions, but because they possessed an almost irrational willingness to fight for others. The idea of abandoning 3 billion innocent beings to a horrible fate was antithetical to human nature. "A call to arms, Rodriguez. Open a secure channel to all human vessels within 200 light-years. Use emergency military frequencies and captain's authorization. Codes." Torres moved to his command chair, his mind already working through the implications of what he was about to do. "Sir, that's going to reach a lot of ships, military and civilian alike. And we don't have authorization for a fleet mobilization." Torres smiled grimly as he composed his message. Sometimes leadership meant making decisions that regulations couldn't anticipate. Sometimes, Amy, the right thing to do isn't found in any manual. The message that went out from the Defiant Spirit would become legendary in human military history. Torres kept it simple and direct, knowing that his fellow humans would understand the stakes immediately. "This is Captain Marcus Torres, broadcasting on emergency frequencies to all human vessels within receiving range. We have confirmed reports of an active genocide in the Zephyrian Empire. Unknown parasitic entities are systematically exterminating an entire civilization while the Galactic Council watches from the sidelines. The victims have been declared expendable for political convenience." Torres paused, letting the weight of those words sink in before continuing. "All available ships are requested to rendezvous at coordinates 892.447 221 for immediate response operations. This is not an official military order. This is a request from one human to another. We have a choice to make. We can follow regulations and let billions die, or we can do what humans have always done when faced with impossible odds. We can fight back. As the transmission ended, Torres looked out through the bridge's main viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere in that vast darkness, an entire species was crying out for salvation, while the galaxy's most powerful alliance had decided they weren't worth saving. But Torres knew something about humanity that the Galactic Council had never fully understood. When faced with overwhelming evil, humans didn't calculate odds or consider political implications. They gathered every resource they could find and attacked the problem head-on, regardless of the cost to themselves. The fleet assembles the rendezvous coordinates that Captain Torres had broadcast led to an unremarkable region of space between two minor star systems, far from established shipping lanes and Council patrol routes. Within 24 hours of his emergency transmission, the first human ships began dropping out of hyperspace, their hulls bearing the distinctive markings of vessels from across human-controlled territory. Admiral Rebecca Hayes arrived first in her heavy battlecruiser, Indomitable, a massive warship that had seen action in the Proxima conflicts and carried enough firepower to crack a small moon. At 55 years old, Hayes commanded the respect of every human officer in the Outer Rim territories. Her graying hair and stern expression spoke of decades spent making impossible decisions in impossible situations. Behind the Indomitable came a mixed squadron of destroyers, frigates, and assault ships, their angular black hulls designed for rapid deployment and devastating close-quarters combat. Each vessel carried elite marine units equipped with the latest in human military technology, including weapons that pushed the boundaries of several galactic treaties regarding acceptable force multipliers. But it wasn't just the military vessels that answered Torres' call. Captain Elena Vasquez arrived in her converted asteroid mining platform Earthbreaker, a massive industrial ship that had been retrofitted with military-grade shields and an impressive array of improvised weapons. Her crew of engineers and miners had spent the last decade turning their workplace into one of the most heavily armed civilian vessels in known space. The sight of the Earthbreaker emerging from hyperspace with its crude but effective weapon modifications sent a clear message about human ingenuity. Where other species might see a mining ship, humans saw a potential battleship waiting for the right kind of creative engineering. An alien observer Dr. Krickstahl of the Vorthen Scientific Collective had been conducting routine stellar cartography aboard his research vessel when he detected the human fleet's assembly. As a xenobiologist specializing in Deathworlder species, he was fascinated by this unexpected opportunity to observe human military behavior in real time. The insectoid scientist watched through his ship's advanced sensors as more and more human vessels continued to arrive. Each ship seemed to represent a different approach to the same fundamental problem: how to convert civilian technology into military capability using nothing but determination and creative problem-solving. A convoy of cargo haulers had welded armor plating to their hulls and mounted missile launchers designed for asteroid demolition. Racing yachts carried experimental weapons that violated physics in ways that made Krickstahl's scientific mind recoil. Even passenger liners had been converted into troop transports, their luxury accommodations replaced with military equipment and medical facilities. Fascinating, Krickstahl clicked to himself in his native language. They are not building a fleet according to established military doctrine. They are improvising solutions to problems they have never encountered before. What impressed the alien scientist most was the speed with which the humans integrated different technologies and crew specializations. Where Council military forces required months of planning and standardization, the humans were forming functional battle groups within hours of first contact. Torres had transferred his flag to Admiral Hayes' battlecruiser to coordinate the growing fleet. The command briefing room aboard the Indomitable buzzed with activity as captains and crew specialists from dozens of ships worked together to develop their strategy. The enemy, revealed Dr. Chun, had arrived aboard the research vessel Galileo, bringing, with her detailed analysis of the Zephyrian distress signals and everything humanity knew about the mysterious void feeders. Her findings were both encouraging and terrifying in equal measure. The parasites operate through a form of quantum entanglement with crystalline structures, she explained to the assembled officers. They can convert normal matter into a crystal matrix that serves as both a habitat and a transmission medium. Once they establish a foothold in a star system, they can coordinate their activities across vast distances instantaneously. Hayes studied the holographic displays showing void feeder attack patterns. What about weaknesses? There has to be something we can exploit. Chan highlighted several anomalies in the sensor data. They seem to have difficulty processing certain types of electromagnetic interference. The Zephyrians mentioned that their quantum communication arrays created temporary disruptions in void feeder coordination, but they never had the opportunity to weaponize this discovery. Captain Jim Mitchell, commanding the converted freighter New Texas, leaned forward with interest. Doc, my ship's main cargo holds are fitted with industrial electromagnetic generators for ore processing. Could we modify those systems to create the kind of interference you're talking about? Theoretically, yes, Chun replied, her scientific mind already working through the possibilities. But we would need to synchronize the interference patterns across multiple ships to create an effective disruption field. The conversation was interrupted when Dr. Crickstow requested permission to board the human flagship. Torres approved the request, curious about why a Vorthan scientist would risk approaching a fleet that the Galactic Council would certainly consider illegal. Unexpected, Alianza Crickstow's first impression upon boarding the Indomitable was one of controlled chaos. Human crew members moved with purposeful urgency through corridors that buzzed with activity. What struck him most was the complete absence of the rigid hierarchical protocols that characterized Council military operations. Dr. Crickstow, Torres greeted the alien scientist personally. I have to admit, I'm surprised to see a Council species representative here. I figured you'd all be maintaining a safe distance from this operation. The insectoid's compound eyes reflected genuine regret. Captain Torres, I must inform you that I am here in a purely personal capacity. The Vorthan Collective officially supports the Council's decision regarding the Zephyrian quarantine. But you don't personally agree with that decision. Crickstow's mandibles clicked in what humans had learned to recognize as emotional distress. I have spent my career studying species that face extinction. The Zephyrians represent one of the galaxy's most ancient and peaceful civilizations. The idea of allowing them to be consumed by parasites for political convenience violates everything I believe about interstellar cooperation. Hayes exchanged a meaningful look with Torres. Doctor, if you're willing to share your expertise with us, we could use all the help we can get. Our understanding of void feeder biology is limited, and any insights you can provide could save lives. The alien scientists' acceptance of their offer marked a turning point in the mission. For the first time, the human fleet had access to advanced Council scientific resources and the kind of detailed xenobiological analysis that could reveal critical weaknesses in their enemy. The plan takes shape over the next 12 hours. The human fleet continued to grow as more ships answered Torres' call. Mining vessels, exploration ships, merchant haulers, and even a few racing yachts had been pressed into service. The final count reached 63 vessels of various classes, united not by standardized equipment or official authorization, but by a shared refusal to let an entire civilization die without a fight. Dr. Chun worked closely with Crickstow. to develop a comprehensive strategy for combating the void feeders. Their analysis revealed that the parasites relied heavily on quantum coordination to maintain their crystalline networks. Disrupting these communications could potentially fragment their collective intelligence and make them vulnerable to conventional attacks. The key is creating overlapping interference fields, Chun explained to the gathered fleet commanders. We'll need to position our ships in a specific formation that maximizes electromagnetic disruption while minimizing our own exposure to their conversion abilities. Captain Vasquez raised a practical concern. Doc, most of our ships aren't designed for the kind of precision flying you're describing. We're talking about maintaining formation in three-dimensional space while under enemy fire. Torres smiled grimly. Elena, human pilots have been doing impossible things since we first figured out how to leave Earth's atmosphere. Our people will adapt. Admiral Hayes pulled up the tactical displays showing their route to Zephyrian space. The journey will take 4 days at maximum sustainable velocity. That gives us time to conduct combat drills and ensure all ships can coordinate their electromagnetic systems effectively. As the briefing concluded, Torres looked around at the faces of his fellow humans. They represented merchants, miners, scientists, soldiers, and explorers who had volunteered for what was essentially a suicide mission. None of them had official authorization for military action. All of them understood that they were about to violate numerous galactic treaties and regulations. Yet every person in the room wore the same expression of determined resolve. They had made their choice not because it was legal or safe or politically expedient, but because it was right. The final preparation, the hyperspace jump to Zephyrian territory, began at 0600 ship time, with the human fleet arranged in a defensive formation that would allow for rapid deployment upon arrival. Each ship had been equipped with modified electromagnetic generators, communication jamming equipment, and whatever weapons their crews had managed to improvise during the journey. Dr. Crickstel spent the transit time analyzing every piece of data they had about void feeder behavior. His scientific reports painted a picture of an enemy that was both incredibly dangerous and potentially vulnerable to the kind of unconventional tactics that humans specialized in. They have evolved to combat organized military responses, he explained in his final briefing before arrival. Their adaptation protocols assume enemy forces will follow predictable patterns of engagement. Your species' tendency toward improvisation and creative problem-solving may provide the tactical advantage we need. As the fleet prepared to drop out of hyperspace, Torres opened a communication channel to all ships. This is it, people. We're about to enter a system where 3 billion innocent beings are fighting for their lives against an enemy that the rest of the galaxy has decided is unbeatable. We're going to prove them wrong. The silence that followed was filled with the quiet determination that had carried humanity from a single world to the stars. In a few hours, they would face an enemy unlike anything in galactic history, but they would face it together with a kind of stubborn refusal to surrender. That made humans the galaxy's most dangerous deathworlders. Asterisk.